writing flaws versus writing mistakes. There's a critical difference between the two, and we're going to talk about what that is and why you should care right now. Okay, so let's get into this concept of a writing flaw versus a writing mistake, because it's a conversation I find myself having a lot lately. So let's start with talking about the difference, and then we'll get into why you should care. So let's start with a writing mistake. A mistake is an error that happens at a very low rate within your paper. So for example, let's say you wrote a 20-page paper and you used commas incorrectly 3 times. No one's going to say, hey, this person doesn't understand commas. We're all just going to say, yeah, you just made an error. You know, that's it. Okay. Now let's compare that against a flaw that's happening in your academic writing. Let's say, sticking with the comma example, you use commas incorrectly 25 times in a 20-page paper. Do you see the difference there, right? No one's going to look at that and say, oh, you just made a lot of mistakes with commas. What we're going to say is, oh, I don't think you understand commas, right? So when I say flaw, I'm really talking about a fundamental misunderstanding that you have. It could be grammatical. It could be something structural, right? It could be any number of things, right? But it is a fundamental misunderstanding about something that relates to your writing. Now, here's why you should care. If you're getting consistent feedback that's telling you something is an issue, it's not a mistake you're making, all right? It's a flaw. It's a fundamental misunderstanding that needs to be tackled head on. And the sooner you get to that, the better. And honestly, when you're starting with academic writing, you might have a lot of these things that need to be tackled. So if you've got 3, 4, 5, don't think, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming, because it is. But if you're starting on the early end, just pick 1 or 2 things and really work to get 1 or 2 things under control and then add to that. Okay. So, you know, the other reason why it's really important to know this difference is because it's really easy to blow off these flaws as mistakes, right? And so when you keep hearing some information over and over again, you might think, oh, they're just being really critical of me. All I did was make a mistake. But it's actually not a mistake, right? It's someone trying to help you correct a fundamental misunderstanding about a particular aspect of your paper. And so if you blow it off and say, oh, I can't believe these people are so worked up, I just made a mistake, right? Mistakes suggest that you understand how to do it and you just, whoopsies, messed up for whatever reason, right? You weren't paying attention, you forgot, whatever, right? Mistakes happen. Flaws represent something that you've got to work on to develop in your work. Now, what might this be in an academic paper if we look past grammar? So here are some common things that I've seen, not just from doctoral students, but also like when I'm reviewing papers for academic journals. Okay. So under analyzed work in qualitative research, this is a biggie. Okay. And so this is where, people are presenting themes and not claims. All right. And so you do have to, you know, in your qualitative work, you do have to develop themes, but then you have to move from themes to claims. Now, I'm not positive, but I think I have a video about this that shows you how I do it. And if so, I'm going to have it pop up on a card here so you can click on it and you can see some of the fundamental mistakes that qualitative researchers make in their analysis that I've seen consistently throughout my career. And if a card's not popping up, it means I have not made this video yet, and I will be making one shortly. So that's one thing, right? You might have claims that are at a very basic level of analysis, right? Like you might have a list of things. You might have things that just don't contribute to the larger gap in the literature. They're not very interesting. It's a necessary part of your data analysis, but you didn't go far enough. And so you're just kind of presenting us with this basic, boring, you know, kind of bottom level analysis stuff that we don't need to know. You might be summarizing when you should be synthesizing. Okay. Those are some things that might happen. Organization, structure, leaving out key pieces of information, right? These are all things that are pretty common to see in academic writing. Now, on the flip side, before I sign off here, just know, like, if you're getting consistent compliments in a particular area, then recognize that as a strength. So when I started academic writing, when I started grad school, one of the things that I always seemed to get compliments on was my ability to organize my ideas, right? My organizational abilities were strong. My ability to write up an analysis section, 2 thumbs down, that stunk for several years, but recognize that you do have strengths. And so hear both kinds of feedback, right? Hear where those fundamental flaws are that you need to work on, that you need to develop, and then also be aware of what it is that you're really, really good at that you can let go of and not really focus on so much because you've got it down.